Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, Μιχάλη. Ευχαριστώ. Ο Μιχάλης από εδώ. Πώς πάει? Ζωγραφίζει. The unsung hero behind me who's busy painting while people are talking. It's a difficult thing to do. Συγγνώμη, σήμερα θα μιλήσω αγγλικά. Is that okay? Μπεράζει, η Μαρία, εσύ μου το λες. There is translation. Υπάρχει μετάφραση για όποιον θέλει. Αλλά καλύτερα, γιατί κάνω πολύ λάθη στα ελληνικά. Όπως παράγγελα μια φορά σαλάτα με πατζούρια. Ο Μιχάλης το ξέρει αυτό. Ευτυχώς δεν είχανε. So, with a name like Economides, it should come as no surprise to you that I studied economics. But I found that economics just wasn't doing it for me. And I moved towards marketing. Because marketing is about people. Marketing is about how people play. Economics is about the score. And I was far more interested in human behavior. So I found myself moving to marketing, which of course in Greek is written like that.
Να σας πω μόνο ότι υπήρχε τμήμα marketing. Υπάρχουν τμήματα marketing. Το marketing δεν μπορεί να είναι ένα αντικείμενο το οποίο μπορεί να είναι σε μεταπτυχιακό επίπεδο, μπορεί να είναι 2-3 μαθήματα σε, αν θέλετε, προπτυχιακό επίπεδο, αλλά δεν μπορεί να κάνεις ένα τμήμα γύρω από το marketing.
I was shocked when I saw that. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I put something up on Facebook immediately, and within 3 minutes, I had a call from one of his advisors, and he said to me, Mr. Economides, you misunderstood because your Greek is not good. I said, my Greek is bad, but it's not that bad. Now, imagine being a kid, studying marketing, right? You're reading your marketing textbook, and suddenly you see this on TV. What happens? What happens? Your sense of self and your sense of worth and your sense of purpose has just been destroyed by the Ministry of Education. Rebranding Greece is about rebranding Greeks. We've got to get with it. Anybody tell me what that noise is? Harley, right? That sound is so much a part of the Harley brand name. It's what the Harley brand's all about. When you hear that sound, you know exactly what it is. It's that kind of machine. Here's the sound of next year's Harley. It's electric. It's electric. Harley-Davidson has made a decision to go electric, to get rid of that characteristic Harley sound and launch a bike which is electric, because they have no choice. They have no choice. The world is moving that way. Ferrari. A couple of years ago, the CEO of Ferrari made the following statement. Somebody said to him, when will you launch an electric Ferrari? And his answer was, you'll have to shoot me first. Italian accent, of course. You'll have to shoot me first. That was March 2016, right? Last year, the same guy said the following thing. If there is an electric supercar to be built, then Ferrari will be the first. Same guy, January 2018. He knows that if he doesn't do it, someone else will. Someone else will. In fact, Porsche is launching an electric car called the Mission next year. We're living under the volcano. We used to talk about disruption. These days, I prefer to call it eruption, because things just explode when you're not even expecting it. Research done, can I have the handheld microphone, please? There was some research done a couple of years ago by Gartner. Across industry. across industries. And 50% of CEOs across different industries see substantial change happening by 2020. Substantial transformation happening. The numbers are interesting. 9% say we will operate in a new industry almost unrecognizable compared to today. 41% will witness substantial industry transformation. 43% will witness moderate industry transformation. 7% there'll be little industry transformation. It will be similar to today. 3 years. 3 years. And if that sounds far-fetched, does anybody remember Kodak? Kodak used to capture the memories of humanity. They invented the digital camera. But the CEO of Kodak said, this invention will kill our business. Hide it. As usually happens, if somebody somewhere in the world comes up with a smart idea, somebody else is usually thinking about the same kind of thing somewhere else, because there's more than one smart person on this planet. Fujifilm launched the digital camera. Kodak went out of business. Who uses cameras these days anyway? We use our iPhones as cameras. It's not a bad camera. Google. Google put the Encyclopedia Britannica out of business. When I was a kid, we used to go and search the world's information on the encyclopedia. That's exactly what Google does. Airbnb, the world's largest hospitality company. The world's largest hospitality company. They don't own a single room. Could Hilton Hotels have done something like that? Sure, they could have. And they own the properties. They didn't. Netflix. If you're in the TV business, you're shaking when you see that logo. Netflix is really starting to control the entertainment industry to a very large extent. And Uber, what can I say? It doesn't stop there. Electric cars, not self-drive cars, not from within the motor car industry. It's happening from outside the motor car industry. Google, Apple, all sorts of companies are fiddling around with self-drive cars, including Uber. Not from within the industry. Because the truth is, creating dramatic change from inside the industry is a very difficult thing. You've got to make a calculated risk that you might destroy your business and actually not succeed with the new venture. Startups don't have that kind of issue. There is no downside. Change. We've all got to deal with it. Whether you're a startup, a scale-up, an established business, the largest corporation on the planet, you have to deal with change. Because if you don't do it, someone else will. Think like a startup. That's my advice to anybody, no matter what the size of their business. Think like a startup. Startup is a state of mind. That's all it really is. It's a state of mind. Here's to the crazy ones, to paraphrase the Think Different commercial from 1997. Here, I think, is the new version of that commercial. It came out the other day, the new Nike ad, featuring the guy who insists on kneeling when the flag when the anthem is played.
If people say your dreams are crazy, if they laugh at what you think you can do, good. Stay that way. Because what non-believers fail to understand is that calling a dream crazy is not an insult. It's a compliment. Don't try to be the fastest runner in your school or the fastest in the world. Be the fastest ever. Don't picture yourself wearing OBJ's jersey. Picture OBJ wearing yours. Don't settle for homecoming queen or linebacker. Do both. Lose 120 pounds and become an Ironman after beating a brain tumor. Don't believe you have to be like anybody to be somebody. If you're born a refugee, don't let it stop you from playing soccer for the national team at age 16. Don't become the best basketball player on the planet. Be bigger than basketball. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. When they talk about the greatest team in the history of the sport, make sure it's your team. If you have only one hand, don't just watch football, play it at the highest level. And if you're a girl from Compton, don't just become a tennis player. Become the greatest athlete ever. Yeah, that's more like it. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
Isn't that amazing? Don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough. Is it possible to lower the light a bit? It's really killing me. Yeah, that's a bit. Thanks. Now, I come from a family where I think that, my whole family has been people who've had crazy dreams. My grandmother left Invros when she was 18 years old with my grandfather. They went to South Africa. They didn't have a penny in their pocket. They had to leave. They were refugees. There was no internet to check what the weather was like. And there was nobody to phone up and ask whether it's true that lions run around in the streets. They got into a boat and they went to South Africa. Now that's my grandmother on the right-hand side. That's my grandfather next to her. And that's my mother, who passed away last year at the age of 92. So she's 4 years old. That's a long time ago. It's soon after they arrived in South Africa. But there's my grandfather's startup. He started a shop. He gave it a stupid brand name, the Australian Cash Store. He was in Africa, I remind you. I have no idea. And I never managed to ask him why he called it that. But that was a startup, right there. That over there was my father's startup. That's me, by the way. He left school when he was really young. And he started a company which grew into a very big manufacturing company. And my father's dream was that I would work for him. And that's actually me working for my father with my little badge. And one day I went to my father's office and I said to him, "Dad, this is not what I want to do." He said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a big deal on Madison Avenue." He looks at me and says, "Where's that?" So I explained what Madison Avenue was, the center of the universe of advertising. And he looked at me and he smiled. And he said to me, "Go and show them who we are." And that was the most amazing day of my life. I was liberated. I left like a bird. And I started on my journey towards New York, because that's where I wanted to be. And I went to Hong Kong, came to Athens, I went to Mexico, and then I finally landed up in New York, where I was an executive vice president and worldwide director of client services for McCann Erickson. And then this crazy Greek guy called Bill Tragos from Kalamata, who was the founder of the ad agency TBWA, called me up and he hired me. And one of my first jobs was to work with Steve Jobs in relaunching the Apple company, which he'd just gone back to in September, August of 1997. But the pull of Greece was too strong, even though I wasn't born here. Greece had a very powerful pull on me. And I came back, and there's a statement from a German called Goethe, where he says, of all people, the Greeks have dreamt the dream of life best, and it's true. It's absolutely true. So I started this company in 2003. It's a global brand strategy company. I work with a couple of leading Greek companies, and I work with a lot of companies around the world. And I talk a lot with young kids at universities and schools. And I've done a lot of work on, giving talks about Greece and just trying to motivate Greeks to understand, what it is that we've got in this country, which is a lot. And some of the things that I've seen over the past few years have amazed me. I was talking to a journalist about that earlier. It's just that they're not given a shop window. People don't know about it. There are miracles happening in this country, amazing things happening, with amazing young people doing incredible things. And some amazing not so young people doing incredible things. Big companies doing amazing things. I'll talk a bit about those a little later. So the narrative when I came back, that was the first part of the narrative. Greece had just become part of Europe. And I remember at the time the whole mindset was, I want to be European, not Greek. It was like grafiko, to go to Santorini. I don't get it. It's such a beautiful place. But everybody wanted to go to Rome and Milan, and come on. Then that happened. We won the European Football Championship in 2004. And in my speech with Unite, I said those guys did not walk into the stadium in Lisbon saying, the Unite. Doesn't happen like that. And just a couple of months after that was this, the most beautiful Olympic Games opening ceremony. Unbelievable. In fact, this is what a journalist said about it. The most beautiful and moving opening ceremony in Olympic history. This spectacular event told the story of a country steeped in pride for its remarkable cultural heritage. A country which has made an incredible contribution to modern civilization. The ceremony captured the Greek joy of life, the soul, the heart and spirit of a newly transformed modern nation. 2004. And that same journalist finished that article with this statement. It gave vision for the future. It gave Greece a role in the modern world. That was 2004. A couple of years later, 2010, I believe, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing made the following statement. He said, Europe without Greece is like a child without a birth certificate. Spot on, absolutely right. The Brandenburg Gate in Berlin looks remarkably similar to a Greek temple, for example. And then in 2012, I guess it was, I was interviewed by a journalist from Süddeutsche Zeitung, the leading German newspaper. And he asked me the following question. He said, are Greeks Europeans? And I didn't know what to say to this guy. I felt like saying, don't you understand history? Don't you understand Greek culture? But then I realized what he was asking me. Do we have a role in modern Europe? Do we have a role in the world? And this is what I said. We'll never be good Germans. But we must become exceptional Greeks. Greece version 2. I see it happening. I gave a talk earlier this year when I said, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And this country's got a lot of old dogs. You can see them sitting outside the cafeteria, disillusioned old dogs. You can't teach them new tricks. But I've seen young kids doing phenomenal things. This is Greece version 2. There's this article over here which was run on Travel and Leisure, and I want to read it to you because it's really good. This guy says, despite the hardships it has weathered recently, from economic calamity to the refugee crisis, this ancient city is an astonishingly fun place to be right now, thanks to the young artists, dreamers, and entrepreneurs who've taken matters into their own hands and started building the Athens they want to live in. So just, old dogs just step aside. The kids want to do it anyway. And this, 2 weeks ago in the New York Times, Athens rising. The city has endured crisis and chaos and yet is now emerging from the wreckage as one of Europe's most vibrant and significant cultural capitals. It's true. Some of the best bars in Europe are in Athens today. And that's my dream. Sorry, that's the squashed cover. The screen is stretching things a bit here. That's my dream, is that one day Fortune writes a cover that says Greeks are reinventing Greece and creating Greece version 2.0. That's my dream. And it's not just the young kids. It's companies, big and small, forward-thinking with a growth mindset, to paraphrase what we were hearing earlier from Tom. We can do it. Think like a startup. Now, if you think like a startup, you've also got to recognize failure. And Tom was speaking about this. 9 out of 10 startups fail, according to Forbes. 9 out of 10. 1 out of 10 succeeds, is the flip side of that. The reasons, there are tons of them, according to this bit of research that I found on the internet, like no market need, running out of cash, not the right team, etc., etc., etc. But you can boil them down to 3, in my opinion. The first one is a weak idea. Very often, somebody comes up with, I got this wonderful idea. No, you're the only person who thinks so. The second is poor execution. Poor execution. The third, which I think is the one that prevails most, fatigue. I'm tired. I'm running out of cash and I can't go and talk to another bank. Goes into that category. So-and-so who's been writing the code has just resigned. I can't go through looking for another guy and I don't think another guy exists. It's giving up. It's giving up. Fatigue. By the way, when fatigue sets in, well, there's a reason why there's fatigue. You're sitting at point A. And by the way, I don't care if you're a startup, a scale-up, an established business launching a new product, the same kind of thinking applies. You're sitting at point A and you want to achieve point B. You want to move yourself or your company to point B. Well, point B is never a straight line. In fact, it usually looks something like that. And there's a very good reason for that. Because underneath that, there's a maze, which you very often are just not seeing. But it's there, and all of a sudden there are walls in front of you. And that's when you can say, "Vegginete." No, look for the other way. You've just learned that it's not that way. Look for the other way. But fatigue can set in very easily. Now, fatigue is a problem because in order to successfully go about a startup, there's a lot of people that you need to get involved with you. Partners, investors, bankers, mentors, regulators, employees, suppliers, producers, retailers, media, and there might be many others. Fatigue can set in anywhere over here. One of your investors might say, I just can't do this anymore. That's fatigue. That's fatigue. The media might say, I don't think those guys are going to make it. That's fatigue. That's fatigue. And all of those guys are in the way of you achieving that. Because without those people, you can't execute. You can't reach consumers. We got to remember something. People who support a startup from throughout that ecosystem are making an explicit decision to forego stability in exchange for the promise of tremendous growth and the excitement of making immediate impact. As Steve Jobs said in 1997, let's make a dent on the universe. That's impact. That's making a difference. Jack Welch, considered by many to be the greatest CEO in the history of CEOs, he didn't go to Mount Athos, by the way. He says the real role of the CEO is to be the chief meaning officer, is to give people the reason why they go to work every day. By the way, that is very Athonian. Give them the reason why they go to work every day. The second role of the CEO is to make it fun. So give it meaning, make it fun. Guess what? That fights fatigue. Yeah? Now look at Google. Google, arguably one of the most innovative companies on the planet, has created something called Googleplex, which is a great deal of fun, and it's full of meaning. You walk into Googleplex and you understand that you're in a very special place with very special people who are doing amazingly special stuff. And when they go for lunch, they got a choice, free meals by the way, of Japanese or Italian or Chinese or whatever, right, French, at different restaurants. They take their kids to work with them, they take their dogs to work with them, there's swimming pools all over the place, and they have fun. And guess what? They work late. Because it's nice to be there. It's got meaning and it's fun. Everything communicates. What you say, what you don't say, what you do, what you don't do. Everything communicates. Every phone call is a chance to build your brand. That, by the way, is Tony Hsieh from Zappos. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. A brand is no longer what we tell consumers it is, it's what consumers tell each other it is. A startup cannot afford to think about brand, is what I hear startups saying to me. I've got too many other things to deal with to think about brand. What I say is, a startup cannot afford not to think about brand. Start with brand. By the way, just to clarify one thing, when I talk about brand, I am not talking about names and logos. That's a pretty stupid name for a computer company. Apple. Like call it banana, you know what I mean? It's pretty stupid. Sorry? It's the seed of knowledge. Oh, well, I don't know about that, but I know that that's the original Apple logo, which is Newton sitting under a tree and the apple falling out of the tree onto his head. And what it says around there is, Newton, a mind forever voyaging through strange seas of thought, alone. That's some pretty weird California crap. But it's got the roots of Apple's DNA. Let's make a dent on the universe. Let's be crazy, right? That little video I showed you earlier, the Nike video, it expresses that kind of spirit. That is a lot more than a name. Does anybody know what that is? Sorry? Google. That is a Google, right? Sorry? That is a Google, which is apparently the biggest number which man can imagine, 10 to the power of 100. Okay? And by the way this name was given was that some American scientist, I can't remember his name, asked his young kid to imagine an impossibly big number and give it a name. And the kid called it Google. And they figured out that this was a big enough number to represent something impossibly big. He then asked his kid to invent an even bigger number. You know what he called it? A Googleplex, which is the name of the campus. So that's Google. Now, this to me is a very important thing. A startup is a company working to solve a problem where the solution is not obvious and success is not guaranteed. Okay? That, by the way, is the founder of Warby Parker, the eyeglass people. And the problem that he was solving was that he reckons it's a ripoff that people should be paying $600 for a pair of glasses when they should really be costing more like $75. Okay? We'll be talking more about this stuff, by the way, in the masterclass tomorrow. I'm just skimming through some of the stuff, but there's a lot of interesting stuff inside here. The best ideas are those that solve problems which no one knew existed. And the best example of that is the iPod. Remember the iPod? People don't know what they want until you show it to them, and that's a Steve Jobs quote. I mean, 1,000 songs in your pocket. I didn't know I needed 1,000 songs in my pocket until I could have it, and then I wanted it. If somebody had said to me, what's the problem with portable music systems, I'd say make the CDs smaller. Do you remember those small little CDs for a while that they came out of the mini discs? Forget about it. This was the answer. This was the answer. So really, solving a problem is about anticipating an unarticulated consumer need. Not dealing with problems that consumers have. Research is rubbish, in my opinion. Of course you've got to know your markets, but it needs insight. It needs much deeper human insight. It needs you to go beyond what research is telling you. The perfect search engine understands exactly what you mean and gives you back exactly what you want. The two Google guys in 1998. What are they talking about? They were solving a real problem. They were solving a real problem. Access to the world's information. This is my best one, Henry Ford. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Research doesn't give you the answers. You need to go way beyond that information to get real insight. Simon Sinek. I guess a lot of you have been exposed to Simon Sinek. By the way, this is what Aristotle was all about, in my opinion. I was talking earlier on to, I believe it was to you, about this and Aristotle. Aristotle was talking about all this kind of stuff. That's the original brand guy, I'm telling you. Aristotle was him. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he explains it with these little circles. He says everybody knows what they do. Some people know how they do it. Very few can express why they do it. And he says, start with why. Now, I want to explain this to you using a very simple example, which is me and my dog. I found my dog when he was 5 days old in the middle of Plaka. He was this big, his eyes were closed, he was full of fleas, his one paw was like this, and I took him to the vet and he said to me, this dog's not going to live. I said, this dog is going to live. And I got into Google and I figured out a recipe, which was, if you ever find a little small dog, 5 days, which is honey, milk and eggs, 16 drops every half hour. It works wonders. So this little creature, his eyes started opening and he grew and he became a big dog. And then I had to get him, by the way, the dog's the guy on the left, okay? And then I had to move him onto like solid food. And I wanted to get the best for my dog because this dog had become like this with me. I mean, he was like connected to me now. I wanted the best. I do not taste dog food. So I don't know what the best is, okay? And then along comes a company and says to me, everything we do is for the love of dogs. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And then they show me this movie. I can see the dog lovers in the audience. All the dog lovers are like, it's amazing, isn't it? It's really phenomenal. So I knew which dog food to get. It was easy, right? I mean, you know, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Well, the same applies to smartphones. I do not have the ability to test every smartphone on the market to find out which one is the best. I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the time. I need to be able to make a decision. Like that guy made a decision. In fact, that guy has been waiting in a line all night to be the first to get the iPhone, because that's how much he believes in Apple's why. Not in their what, in their why. Bless you. A powerful why creates human connection. It builds loyalty, and that creates sustainable growth. And let me explain that to you. You get multiple transactions over time. I own every single one of those iMacs, and I can't wait for the next one to come out. It also creates multiple transactions across categories. I've got an iMac, an iPod, iTunes, iPhone. I use the App Store, iPad, iCloud, TV, watch, Apple Pay. And if Apple launches a fridge tomorrow, I'm buying one. And if they launch a motor car, we'll all go and look at it. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Aristotle, we are what we consistently do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. You need to find your sweet spot. You need to find your sweet spot. This is the model that I use for brand development, and it's all focused on finding the sweet spot. Ambition. What do you want to achieve? If they write about you in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, what does the headline of the article say? It's like asking a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the answer is not, I want to make a lot of money. That's not the answer. Making money is a result of other things. DNA, can you do it? Is it within your capability of doing it? And market insight, does anybody really care? Because I might be able to do amazing stuff, I've got all the DNA to do it. Nobody cares. It's not really worth doing then. And out of that you find the sweet spot. And once you find your sweet spot, you hit it consistently with everything you do and say and don't say, because everything communicates. That's the difference between companies with staying power and companies with fatigue. It's also the difference between Apple and Nokia. Now, I'll be talking quite a bit tomorrow about millennials, because millennials are a market that we absolutely need to understand. Consumer habits and attitudes are changing dramatically. One of the key things about millennials is this: they are curating and streamlining their lives. They don't just want more stuff. They want products and services that make their lives better. They're looking for better and more connected experiences. We'll talk more about this stuff tomorrow. It's important. Technology alone is not enough. When people think about transformation, that first slide I showed you, the volcano, most CEOs will say digital transformation, but technology alone is not enough. Every touch point, technology-driven or not, regardless of size or impact, must start with an experienced design strategy which fully reflects the sweet spot. And that kind of works like this. There's your sweet spot, expressed through belief, values, and narrative, which drives internal behavior. It sets up external expectations. You then design experiences which create better and more connected experiences, and that creates connection, loyalty, sustainable growth. But it all starts up there. Meaning and fun. Your why. That kind of stuff. And then moves through. And think of it really as a megaphone that, with experienced design strategy, you can create better, more connected experiences which amplify belief, values, and narrative. Back to Greece version 2. Technology, obviously a Greek word. Technology describes how stuff works. Anthropology describes how people work. I think we need techno-anthropology to describe how stuff works for people. We live in a left-brain world. The world needs right brain too. There are unique words in our language. And the beauty of our language is that words have got meaning in and of themselves. It's not about the sound, it's the elements inside the word. Φιλότιμο, φιλοξενιά, μεράκι, μέτρο, ανθρωπιά, ethos, kefi, and perhaps my favorite word, entheos, the God within, the root of the word enthusiasm. Beautiful word, beautiful word. Greece's why? Life. This is what defines the Greeks. It always has and it always will. A respect for life gave rise to democracy. The meaning of life gave rise to philosophy. Saving life gave rise to medicine. The beauty of life is expressed in sculpture. The dilemmas of life are played out in theater. The love of life is at the heart of Greek endeavor. And if we lose this love, we lose life, we lose ourselves. Because this is what makes us who we are. It's how we wake up each morning with the love of life. Life. This is Greek know-how, technognosia. And when we utilize this know-how, we transform it into creative enterprise to be valued by the world. This is how we will reignite our economy and give Greece a meaningful role in the world by doing things that Greeks excel at, by creating sustainable competitive advantage based on unique Greek know-how. The know-how of life, the love of life, it's for life, it's forever. It's for life, Greece. I don't think any other place on the planet has got this deep understanding of humanity that we've got in this country. I don't think there's another place on this planet. I certainly haven't come across it. Love life, love dreams. It's for life. Love perfect. Love perfect again, but this time with commercial product. Love yaya. Love yeah. That's olive oil, by the way. Love energy. Delphus. Love energy. Love Byzantium. Mary Katranzou, who's doing amazing stuff in London with a very Greek spirit behind what she does. Think like a Greek startup. Everyone in this room, part of our why, part of our DNA is Greekness. It sets us apart in a very, very powerful way in a world that needs the right brain to be added to the left brain. We'll never be good Germans. We must become exceptional Greeks. Thank God we won't become good Germans. By the way, I'd never buy a Greek motor car, but I wouldn't ask a German to teach me to dance. Reinventing Greece. There's never been a better time to be Greek, in my opinion. Tomorrow I'll be talking quite a bit about this because I've been doing a lot of work in the US, especially on Greek food products. I'll just talk about one of them right now, which is Vasilio, just down the road from here. I've been working with Vaggelis for quite a few years, and we made a decision to really act like a startup with his winery. Of course, he's not a startup, but we went to New York and literally went in restaurant by restaurant, choosing the best restaurants in the city and making sure we got in. The net result is that this wine is now selling in New York for $125 a bottle. And recently we had a wine tasting, and this is what Alan Richman, who's one of the top wine critics in the States, had to say. He said, "Don't bother pronouncing this name, just drink the wine. You'll love it." That's one of the top wine critics in the States. He finished his article with that statement: the Greek wine revolution is coming. There's never been a better time to be Greek. But it's time to be Greek. Και αυτό γίνεται. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me. It's been a great pleasure and honor. Thank you.